Yep, I recently purchased the Panasonic Varicam LT. Now you're probably wondering to yourself, John, why the heck did you purchase a 6-year-old camera when there are so many other better cameras out there that are also modern? Like the FX6, the FX3, the C70, the Red Komodo, the Ursa Mini G2, or the Pocket 6K. Well, let me take you on a journey back to before I actually purchased this camera. I've looked at so many different cameras. I've watched so many camera reviews. I have looked at so many specs. I have seen so many dynamic range charts for all of these cameras, and none of them really satisfied me. And I've asked all of my peers about what camera I should get, and you can probably take a wild guess as to which camera they recommended. So after getting strong recommendations for that specific camera, I started slimming down my list. And I came up with 6 that I thought that I wanted. And with each camera, I came up with a list of things that I needed to get the camera up and running. And then I realized that I really also wanted a camera that had built-in XLRs and built-in NDs. And I also wanted something that I didn't have to spend 5 to 10 minutes building and tearing down at the beginning and end of each shoot. Something more all-in-one. And I thought that would help make my decision. And then my list slimmed down from 6 to 3, the Sony FX6, the Red Komodo, and the Panasonic EVA1. See if I have that. Do I have that? Wow, I haven't seen this in so long. Now hold this on! The Red Komodo has not XLR inputs, nor does it have ND filters built in! Yeah, I know, I just like the red look. I've wanted a red forever, okay? Leave me alone! Oh, and a quick aside, I'm a Panasonic guy. After I purchased my GH5 in 2017, I believe, I grew to love how the GH5 image looks. I like the colors out of it, I like the log, and I really loved this image stabilization. One thing I absolutely hated about it though, was the autofocus. That being said, I was already leaning towards the Panasonic EVA1 because it had that Panasonic sensor and it also had a native EF mount on it, which is great because all of my lenses are EF. If I went with the Red Komodo, I would need to get an EF adapter. If I went with the Sony, I would have to get an EF adapter. And so it's just, it's an extra thing that I would have to purchase. And so I went back to my peers and I told them about the 3 choices and which choice I was leaning towards. And they brought up a valid point. Clients don't know Panasonic, but they know Sony and they know Red. They know the FX3 and they know the Red Komodo, but they don't know the EVA1. It's just not a popular camera, and it's not a popular manufacturer. The bottom line is, if I went with the EVA1, I would not get as much work as I would with a Red Komodo or with an FX6. So, I knocked the EVA1 off the list. And then there were 2, the Sony FX6 and the Red Komodo. One having that red look and the prestige of it being a red, and the other one having great low light and great autofocus. And I went straight back to YouTube looking up even more comparison and review videos of each. And after months, and I mean months, of going back and forth of which one that I actually wanted, I ultimately decided that I wanted the Red Komodo. The biggest downside being that the Red Komodo is also the most expensive to get up and running. One of the biggest factors for me in deciding if I wanted the Red Komodo or the FX6 was that the FX6 has, in my opinion, not so desirable skin tones. So yeah, I went with the red that I would have to build up and tear down every single time. I mean, I already did it with the GH5 and the Blackmagic Pocket 4K all these years, so I can continue doing it, it's just a minor inconvenience. And so I took to eBay and Facebook Marketplace to find a Red Komodo package that was within my budget. And then as I was scrolling, I came across a camera I did not know even existed. The Panasonic Varicam LT. And so I went straight to YouTube and immediately started looking up some review videos as well as some comparison videos. And what I noticed is that there aren't really many videos about this camera on YouTube. And there also aren't many comparison videos on YouTube. And so I was very limited to what information I actually had on this camera, but nevertheless, I continued and I watched as many videos as I possibly could about this camera. And it immediately went to the top of my list. It was the color science, it was the sensor, it was the native EF and PL mount, and it was the skin tones. And after looking at this camera for 4 months, I knew that I wanted to buy it. So I went back to my peers and I said, hey, there's this really amazing camera that has been used on a bunch of different projects that I will probably put here somewhere. And they looked at the camera and they said, still won't get you work. And then they again recommended that I get the FX6 or the red Komodo. And so I went back home and I mulled over it again. And I pitted all 3 of them against each other. And every single time the Varicam LT won out for me. The only downside that I saw to this camera was its size. It's maybe 3 times bigger than the red Komodo and probably 3 times heavier because it comes in at around 6 pounds bare bones. But even with that, I wanted the Varicam LT. And so I went with it. It's been about 6 months since I purchased this camera, and here are some things that I like and dislike about it so far. This camera has been described as a great mix between the Red's digital look and the Amira's filmic look. And one other thing about the image is the colors out of this thing. The day after I got this camera, I was supposed to shoot something with my Blackmagic. It was a short film for a friend, and I ended up bringing the Panasonic along. And just looking at how the skin, the darker skin tones, especially darker skin tones, how they pop, how they look more vibrant and rich. But the skin tones and the colors out of this camera are just to die for. And one more thing is that this camera also has dual native ISO. It's actually the second camera to have dual native ISO behind its older brother, the Varicam 35. Panasonic is actually the one who developed the dual native ISO technology. The size looks impressive declines. Not only that, but size does help and weight does help with, stabilizing the image when it's on your shoulders or when it's handheld. But mainly when I'm on a shoot and I, take the camera out of the case and the clients see it, they're immediately impressed. Wow, that camera means business. I forgot to put my glasses back on when I was doing the skits. This seems like such a small thing, and I don't think any of you have ever really heard of it, but square focus is so good. It is 4 times better than line peaking. I'm gonna put up a demonstration right here or somewhere, might even just block my screen. My first AC loves using this. Other DPs that I've showed this to were like, wow, that's amazing. Like focusing feels so easy when you have the square peaking because it just is easier. I don't know why more manufacturers don't do square focus peaking. Small HD, Atomos, you guys gotta get this on your monitors. It's incredible, please do it. And now for the things I don't like about this camera. Now I know I said that the size was a good thing about it, but it's also a very bad thing. As I said earlier, this camera weighs about 6 pounds bare bones by itself. No lens, no battery adapter, no cage, nothing. So when built up, it gets heavy very quickly. My camera right now has an Odyssey 7Q on there, and it weighs about 12 pounds. And when built out at its heaviest, my camera can get to be about 17, 18 pounds. And that's pushing the limit for your average tripod head, like the Benro that I have here. And now I have to invest in a much more expensive and beefy tripod head. But then that also means, because it's so heavy, that carrying this camera around becomes very cumbersome. So if I want to do shoulder mounted, it's going to start getting very heavy very quickly, or it's going to start feeling very heavy very quickly. Or if I want to do handheld, you know, underslung or low angle, it becomes very heavy very quickly, and it's not fun. And now I'm finding that I might need to, or that I will need to invest in an easy rig, the more expensive one, because it needs to handle at least 20 pounds. The Varicam LT uses Express P2 cards. These cards used go for around $250 to brand new around $1,000, and that's just for 256 gigs. So if you do have this camera or are going to purchase this camera, purchase used. Save yourself some money. And I know that there is an adapter floating around that adapts SD cards to P2. Don't even bother, it caps out at about 100 megabytes per second. That's not fast. I don't even think that'll record 4K. People know Red, people know Sony, people know Blackmagic and Canon and Arri. Everyone knows Arri, of course. But no one really knows Panasonic. And when I say no one, I'm not talking about no one in general, I'm talking about clients. The majority of clients don't know Panasonic. Heck, they'll know Blackmagic before they know Panasonic, which is very unfortunate because Panasonic makes very good cameras. Their GH5 is still really good. Their S1H camera is fantastic. Their new S5 IIX already on paper seems like a fantastic camera. Do I regret buying this camera? A little bit, sometimes. But every time I see the image out of this camera, I'm reminded of why I bought this camera in the first place. It's a fantastic camera, and yeah, when I use it, I can't see myself using another camera. Panasonic, if any reps are seeing this video, please make a new Varicam. Now, will I buy it? Absolutely. With what money? I don't know. But I will surely be on the lookout for that camera, and I will be rooting for Panasonic to make a comeback in the cinema world. And hopefully they are working on a new cinema camera that will wow the industry like the Varicam 35 and the Varicam LT did when it was released.